Thomas sat in the sheds waiting for the works to have space for him and the arrival of his sister Emma. He hadn't seen her for nearly 100 years, and until his accident he hadn't known whether she was running or not. The last he'd heard of her was when the Fat Controller had written to her manager in the 1960s. She'd been depressed because she thought he might have been scrapped along with the other steam engines in Britain. Thomas had gone through a spell like this himself, but unlike Emma he hadn't talked to anyone about it and just suffered through it. But now she was on her way to the island under her own steam. As he wasn't allowed to work because of his accident at the quarry, he spent his time dozing in the late summer sun. "This is nice," he thought to himself. "I do enjoy my work, but it's nice to rest one's wheels for a while." Just as he was nodding off, he had a sudden, sombre thought. "I wonder if me and Emma will get along like we used to all those years ago." He woke up as the others came home and they chatted about the day's work. When they left the next morning, Thomas started to feel a bit lonely. Later on in the day, 2 inspectors came to see him. "Good morning, Thomas," one of them said as he put down his toolkit. "Good morning, sirs. What are you doing here?" "The Fat Controller asked us to come and give you an examination, to see if you can be steamed to make your own way to the works." Over the next few hours they went over every inch of Thomas, checking every one of his parts for damage and making sure that his boiler hadn't shifted out of its proper place. Finally, one of them got a clipboard out of his briefcase, signed the proper forms and telephoned the Fat Controller and told him that Thomas could be steamed, but only to travel light engine to the works, and if he could be pulled any part of the journey he should be. The next day his crew came to get him ready. "But I can't go yet," said Thomas. "Emma hasn't arrived. She should be here by now." "Don't you worry," said Thomas's driver, seeing the sad look on his engine's face. "You'll see her before you go, I promise." He winked at the firemen as they headed for Thomas's cab, with good reason. That evening he was woken by the tooting of a shrill whistle much like his own. He opened his eyes and saw a brown engine with a shape much like his own coming towards him. He had just a smidgen of steam from his warming fire and whistled happily until the steam petered out. "Oh, Emma," said Thomas, "I am glad to see you again." "And I'm happy to see you again face to face, big brother. Oh my, you have been through the wars, again. You do look very different. I had seen illustrations of you from those Railway Series books, but I didn't quite believe it. Do you like being that shape?" "It serves its purpose," said Thomas. "My tanks do hold a little bit more water, but I can't wait to be a proper E2 again." They spent the rest of the afternoon talking about their adventures. As the sun started to set, the others came home, with Percy bringing the Fat Controller in Annie and Clarabel. Thomas was just then telling Emma about Daisy as he walked across the yard. "But she's away at the moment helping on the Normanby branch. Oh, good evening, sir." "Good evening, Thomas. You must be Emma. It is a great pleasure to meet another London and Brighton engine." "It's a pleasure to meet you too, sir. Thank you for asking me to come. Thomas has been telling me all about your railway. It's so wonderful to see another main network railway that's still steam operated." "Well," said the Fat Controller, "I hope you enjoy your stay on Sodor. Percy will double head with you tomorrow on your first trip with Annie and Clarabel to help you learn the branch line." "Thank you, sir," said Emma. "And Thomas, you'll be heading to the works in the morning, so you'll need a good night's sleep." "How did 2 southern engines wind up on Sodor and in Norfolk?" one of the Sudrian engine drivers asked. The 2 old engines looked at each other. "You tell them, Emma. You were always the storyteller." Everybody found a seat, and this is the story that Emma told. "It's a long story," started Emma, "but I still remember it as if it were only yesterday. It was during the Great War. Me and Thomas were double-heading a munitions train. Back then we were just called numbers 106 and 107. 106, I said. "Can you smell something? I think you've dropped one of your damper screens again. You've set the bank on fire." "I have not." "Hang on. I can smell it too. Oh my goodness, one of the trucks has caught fire." "Quickly, you two," said Thomas's driver. "We've got to get out of town before that wagon goes up." We thought that a spark must have come from one of our chimneys as we were climbing a hill. We were going a decent speed and were right in the middle of a town. Our drivers gave us full steam and we charged forward, whistling furiously. try and keep him steady, mate," said Thomas's fireman. "I'm going to try and get us off the rest of the train. When I whistle, slam the brakes on hard. When I whistle again, full steam." They got the message to my crew, and the next thing we knew, Thomas's fireman was climbing out of the cab. He went back to the coupling of the truck that was on fire. When he was ready, he blew his whistle. Our brakes were put hard on, the truck surged into us and the couplings went slack. Thomas's fireman slipped off the coupling. "Gotcha!" he said. He jumped back onto the truck, whistled, and started to climb back to the cab. We went speeding off around the bend, away from the train. We had just cleared the town when suddenly, the next thing I knew, both me and Thomas were thrown from the tracks, our crews going even further than we did. There was a large crater where the trucks had been. I was on my side, covered in debris from the trucks that had been caught in the explosion. Thomas was in a much worse state than me. He'd been turned halfway around and his bunker and cab were completely gone. By some miracle, my crew and Thomas's driver weren't badly hurt. My crew was soon checking us over as the breakdown crew came to us. Thomas's driver was looking for the fireman, but he had still been on the truck when it exploded. When they got us upright again, I could still roll on my wheels, but Thomas had to be put on a low loader. We were taken back to the shed where the engineers looked us over. The head engineer came over to look at us as well, but he was new and he wasn't very good at the job. "I'm sorry, Mr. Turner," he said, "but they're just too badly damaged. They'll both have to be scrapped." Our hearts sank as the engineer took one more look around us, shaking his head. The yard manager waited for him to go and then looked us over himself. He had started his career as an engineer and was a very good one.
"Stuff and nonsense. I've seen locos far worse off than you two go back into service. I'll see about getting you two repaired, but you might have to wait until the war's over though. I doubt we'd be able to get the metal before then."
He went off to the office to sort out the paperwork for our repairs. He came back a short while later with a face like thunder.
"That idiot. I'll have his job for this."
"What's wrong, sir?" said Thomas.
"He's written the pair of you off as lost in war service. He didn't even ask for my approval. I always knew that he was useless."
"But what does that mean, sir?"
"It means, 107, that we can't repair you now without seriously altering the books and causing a great deal of grief for the company. But I have an idea. I have two friends that are in need of motive power. I'll write to them at once."
Mr. Turner left and we didn't see him for a few days. When we finally saw him again, he was smiling.
"Good news, you two. My friends have agreed to buy both of you. We just need to get you repaired so you can get to them under your own steam. 106, the man buying you is the head engineer of a new railway company on an island just off the mainland. He has sent a proposed drawing for your new back end. 107, you only need a few repairs to be ready, but you'll both need repainting. Is there any particular livery that you would like, 107?
"Well," I said, "I've always liked the umber passenger livery that the others get to wear."
"Very well. Then that's how you'll be painted. 106, Mr. Hat already has a livery in mind for you. I think you'll like it."
Our repairs began soon after that. There was a good deal of metal still in the stores, thankfully. I was ready to go much sooner than Thomas. His entire back end needed rebuilding after all. A few days before I was due to go, Mr. Turner came to see us again.
"Well, 107, it's nearly time for you to go to your new home. Don't you worry. Mr. Johnston is a kind man. He'll look after you. Before the two of you go, there's a surprise for you. Your crews too."
The mayor of the town that we had run through came to thank us for saving it. It turned out that the wagon had been carrying sulphur before the ammunition, and somehow some remnants of it were left over in the wagon, and had managed to combust, setting it alight. Our crews received a special order of the Victoria Cross, because of their bravery getting the trucks away from the town. I think they call it the George Cross now. "And now for the two of you. You will be given special plaques to take with you, so that you will always remember the gallantry that you showed that night. But I wish to put names on them instead of just numbers. Do you have names?" Me and Thomas looked at each other. "No, not really, sir." "Well then," said the mayor, You must choose names for yourselves. What would you like to be called from now on?" "Please, sir," I said, "may I be called Emma? The children on the platforms where I piloted coaches used to call me that, and I've always liked the name." "Certainly. And you, 106? "Please, sir, if I may, sir, I'd like to be named Thomas after my fireman." "Of course," said the mayor. "A fine memorial for him. I will have the plaques ready for you both before you go, and a set of nameplates too, so that everyone will know your names." He was true to his word, and soon our plates arrived. Then it was time for me to leave. I asked to go back to the workshop one last time to say goodbye to Thomas. "Goodbye, Emma," he said. "I do hope we see each other again." "Me too. I hope you like your new shape when it's finished." "It'll be strange not looking like the rest of you. Where is it you're going?" "A quarry in Norfolk," I said. "I'm not really looking forward to it, though." "Why not?" asked Thomas. "It'll all be closed in by walls. You know I don't like small spaces." "But it's by the sea, isn't it? Imagine being beside the sea when you take your trucks to the ports and towns." "I suppose so. But what about the trucks? The others told me that quarry trucks are the worst of the lot." "Oh, don't listen to them," said Thomas. "I suppose 104 told you that, did he? He's always trying to play tricks on you. Don't pay any attention to him." "I suppose so." "Come on, Emma," said my driver. "It's time for us to go now, otherwise we'll miss our connecting paths." "Goodbye, Thomas. I hope we do get to see each other again some day. I'll miss you and the others. Good luck getting that railway going. Good luck to you too, Emma. Don't let those trucks give you any jip." And that was the last time I saw Thomas and my other brothers and sisters. Before I left, Mr. Turner asked me to take some old four-wheeler coaches up to Norfolk, otherwise they would have been broken up and scrapped. I didn't know what Mr. Johnston would do with coaches at a quarry, but he gave them to a friend, a Mr. Cobbett. He used them to get his Norfolk Coastal Railway Company started. I came up mainly on branches, but a couple of times we had to run up on main lines between services. It was tricky. I had to run fast on the main lines, but me and the coaches weren't really built for it. We finally made it to Norfolk though. I left the coaches at Cromer Station and ran light to the main quarry at High Coleman. The first Mr. Johnston was a nice man and the trucks were a pain. It took me a while to find my confidence, but once I did, the trucks soon learned not to play any tricks on me, and that's how I came to live in Norfolk. "And everyone knows my side of the story from there," said Thomas. "I came here and helped to combine the Sudrian Railways into the North Western." Everybody thanked them for the story and went home. The Fat Controller was the last one to leave. "Yes, thank you," he said. "Your story has given me some ideas for your Centenary Celebration. I hope you don't get too bored at the works, Thomas. Some of the work has been able to get started already, so hopefully it won't take too long." The Fat Controller left the sheds. It was getting very late in the day now. The engines talked for a little while longer before going to sleep.